and welcome to this episode of the podcast Voices That Heal, sponsored by the Heal Collaborative. I am Dr. Wayne Tuxton, and I have the pleasure of being the moderator for this installment. This episode will be simulcast on the Heal Collaborative Facebook page, the Heal Collaborative YouTube page, and will also be available to the Voices That Heal Facebook group. In recognition of June being Men's Health Month, we'll be looking at lung cancer, but from a man's perspective. We will hear from men who have been diagnosed and treated for lung cancer, and from men who are caregivers to a spouse or a loved one with cancer. As many of you probably already know, lung cancer is the second most common cancer in the United States, with rates approaching 54 per 100,000 in men and 46 per 100,000 people in women. Lung cancer is the leading cause of death due to cancer, and the rate is 34,000 per 100,000 people in men and 26 per 100,000 in women. It affects a lot of people. The most common cause of lung cancer is tobacco, whether one is smoking it themselves or someone is exposed via secondhand smoke. There are, of course, other causes, which these include radon exposure and environmental pollutants. However, thanks to lung cancer screening and better treatment modalities, the 5-year survival rate for patients with lung cancer has improved dramatically and now sits at around 30%. One of the most significant factors affecting the chance of survival is the stage or how advanced the cancer was at the time of diagnosis. Lung cancer screening markedly improves the chances of identifying early stage cancers because early stage cancers, which are present oftentimes before symptoms present themselves, patients have about a 61% chance of being cured or have a 5-year survival rate. So 61% for early stage. However, if you compare that to people who are diagnosed late, their 5-year survival rate is only 9%. So you can see there's a great deal of value in being able to identify lung cancer early on. When it comes to healthcare, many of us, in particular African American men, place great credence in the experiences and opinions of our family and community members. This is not to say that we don't also heed the advice of healthcare professionals, but we know who has our ear. Since this is Men's Health Month, we will be guided by the stories of men who are either patients with lung cancer or are caregivers of spouses or loved ones who have lung cancer. We have 3 panelists with us now, and our 4th panelist may be able to join us in a little bit. But right now we have with us Mr. Robert Herbert, who is a lung cancer survivor, Mr. Billy McDonald, also a lung cancer survivor, and Mr. Douglas Pompey, who is a caregiver. I want to begin this program by first having each one of our panelists introduce themselves. And gentlemen, if you would tell us who you are and also how has lung cancer touched you. Let's start off with you, Robert, and then we'll go to Douglas, and then we'll go to Billy. Robert, take it away.
Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, obviously, My name is Robert Herbert, and my connection to lung cancer began shortly after I was, discharged from the military. Not long after coming home, I developed a chronic cough, and it wouldn't go away. I'm like, weeks passed, and then after my ex who kept badgering me like, what's going on? You get looked at. I went to the VA. That's when the testing started. First, we did the chest X-ray, then CAT scan, and biopsy. And after that biopsy, I got the bad news. From there, we just did the treatment, and it's been a long time. I've been in remission for about 30 years.
Wow.
I'm very thankful. Definitely changed the way I thought about, cancer, and then, see, because I was always a strong one, the military man, I'm the man, whatever. But please, cancer, will teach you and challenge you. And that's what happened to me, fellas. So I don't want to go on, but yeah.
Well, Robert, I want you to hold on.
Thank you very much.
I want you to hold on to that thought because we're going to come back to a couple of the points that you were raising this. And I'm glad that you touched upon them. Now, let's go ahead over to Douglas. Tell us about your story. You might want to come unmute
Can
yourself
everybody
there,
hear me?
Douglas. We want to
Can
hear.
everybody hear
Now
me?
we can, sir.
All right.
Yes,
All
go
right.
ahead.
My name is Douglas Pompey.
Yes.
I'm a caregiver to Shirese Pompey, my wife, for 30 some odd years. 12 years ago, my wife was finishing her upper master's degree at Western University in Michigan. And I took her to her class, and she was climbing up these steps. And I noticed when we got there that she felt a little tired, and she had been feeling tired. And she said to me, I'm tired today. And she was carrying a backpack up to the class, and she got up there, and she couldn't even bring the bag back down. She was that tired. And so we got home. She had been feeling tired, not a lot of energy. And my wife has energy. And so we got home, and she was like, well, I'm tired. Well, because we had already decided to go to the emergency room. And so she rested for a minute. Then we decided, no, we're not going to wait. We was going to wait till the next day. And we decided to
Lost
take her
everybody.
to the emergency. And so she had fluid on her lungs then at the emergency room. We found out, but it took almost 2 weeks, 2.5, maybe 3 weeks for her to for them to diagnose really what she had. And so it was after she did the biopsy, we did find out. I found out first that she did have stage 4 lung cancer. Boy, was that painful to hear a woman that's
Well,
40, right, Sean?
I want you to put a pin in that. I want you to put a pin in that because again, you raised something that we want to come down and have a little longer discussion about in just a couple of minutes.
Oh, okay.
But thank you for raising
Okay.
that. Okay. Say, Billy,
Okay.
again, introduce yourself and tell us, how has lung cancer touched you? Go ahead, Billy. Billy, can you hear me? About. All right. Well, we're having a little trouble. Billy, if you can't hear me, please go right ahead. But if not, we will come. Can you hear me, Billy? Okay, to let us know about how lung cancer has touched you.
I can hear you.
Please go ahead then.
Um, Billy McDonald, Augusta, Georgia, 73 years old. In 2017, I had a early screening. Well, previously I had one in 2014, and the screening showed nothing. And in 2017, I was rescheduled for the screening again, and I canceled the appointments 2 or 3 times, and then the third at that time I had the screening done, and they found a 1 centimeter in diameter spot on my lung, and they wanted to do a biopsy to see if it was cancerous. So I went in and had all of the tests done, and they had to remove a wedge from my lung in order to test it. They couldn't get to where the spot was. And in that was several lymph nodes. And one of them tested positive for cancer. I went to a radiation doctor, and I was told that I did not need radiation out of my body. But I did have to take chemo in several rounds.
Well, Billy, I'm going to ask you to hold on to that because we want to come back when we start talking a little bit more about the treatments. We're going to get into that a little bit more. But I appreciate you letting us know about how things got started off with you. Thank you very much. Robert, you said something I think that was very interesting, particularly since in this chat is men. And we oftentimes, as men, we hear different messages about what it means to be a man. And you made the point by saying you were an army guy. So you had this image of yourself as this stalwart, I'm guessing. So how do you think this perception of what you were told is being a man, how did that shape your attitude about your health and how you're going to respond to your health and in caring for yourself going forward?
Well, after this happened to me, it definitely, changed the way I looked at things, especially my health, and also being the advocate for myself. Also, being an advocate is extremely important. Second opinions, if you're able to get a second opinion, is extremely important. So, you know, um, this definitely, made me more in tune with my health and also my family's health, also. So, at first I was be like, I would, it wasn't a big deal about going to the doctor. Now I'm like, hey, go to a doctor. If you need therapy, mental therapy, go get therapy. I'm like, I challenge everybody in my family, friends, hey, take advantage of it.
But you at first, your response to your symptoms, what was it? And because you made a point of saying it was your ex who encouraged you to finally go do something about this. So it doesn't sound like you were the one who initiated that action back then.
No, sir, that wasn't the case. Yeah, it was her. It was all her. She got tired of hearing me walk around the house coughing up my lung, coughing up my lungs almost, and she encouraged me. Yeah, I didn't really, I guess after
Mm-hmm.
leaving the military, I was just kind of like, hey, I'm in great shape, still, and I got this, but she definitely encouraged me to go see about it. So my attitude was like, I can handle it, whatever it is, it's no big deal, or it'll pass.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So Douglas, you mentioned that your wife was having trouble going up steps. When you look
Hmm.
back, how what were some of the early symptoms, and who was the one that really said, "Hey, wait a minute, you have a problem"? Was it you or was it her?
It was definitely her. It was definitely her. I mean, when I think back, we were so. I mean, my wife was working. We were busy. We both worked we both seen each other because we both worked at the same school system. But we were busy, full time. I was
Mm-hmm.
coaching a basketball. We was just basically too busy. I would say my kids were playing bad. We had three teenagers, so we were definitely too busy. But my wife, was so good at. Now, I don't want to say hiding,
Mm-hmm.
hiding, but she's just that tough person. So I just let her be tough. And as her husband, let her be who she is. But she was the first one who noticed it. But Shy is just a tough
Mm-hmm.
person, and we were so busy. And when I think back on that, I should have noticed it. I should have noticed how tired she was getting. But
Mm-hmm.
uh, um, we were just too busy. And she noticed it first.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
So, so Billy, what was the how much time had elapsed from the time you first had some symptoms to the time that a diagnosis was made? And why was there a delay for in your case?
Mm.
I didn't have any symptoms.
Hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I did not have any symptoms.
Mm.
I just went. I had an appointment scheduled to go meet a oncologist surgeon, and he showed me exactly where he's going to approach that. But after the surgery, I was made aware of that they just could not remove that one little spot, so they had to
But
remove
Billy,
a
why were you sent to
wedge,
but why were you
and,
sent to see a surgeon? There was
and
some
the
problem
wedge.
going on. Yeah. But why did you go see a surgeon? What was it that led you to have to see somebody?
The early testing, when they got back to at Augusta Medical College, they scheduled me an appointment automatically to go see an oncologist surgeon so that they can determine what that spot was. And
Yes,
that
sir.
led to the dissection of the wedge cancer. But it had
Yes,
already
sir.
been removed out of the body. So I had no lingering effects to it. I went through the basic chemo, Yeah, and all of the basic that you have with chemo, never radiation, tiredness, trying to get myself back together and collecting my thoughts. Because when I first heard cancer, my brain just went into a whirlpool. I didn't know what to think. But I have people around me and a great wife who said, some things are out of your control, Mac. You're going to have to let God handle this one. I
Let
sit
me ask
back,
you,
let the
Douglas.
doctor.
Yeah, sounds good. Douglas, let me ask you, when you look back at it from the initial symptoms that your wife was having, how long of a lag time was there from the earliest symptoms going back to the
Golly.
time of the diagnosis?
Yeah, probably about 3 or 4 weeks. Lag time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, we were so busy doing life, taking care of our kids. She was working every day, but uh, uh, she was tired. And when I look back, and at those 3 weeks, as you answer the question, she was feeling tired. She was out of breath. And so just trying to do life. And you never think in the back of your mind that your wife has cancer. It never entered in my mind. She's active. And then, but when I think back those 3 to 4 weeks, she was feeling tired and not so much coughing, not the cough, but the tiredness, and out of breath. So, but yeah, when I think back, she did show signs of it. I just, as a caregiver and a dad, and with our kids, teenagers, it just, you lose
Mm-hmm.
track. But you know what? Now I'm totally focused.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about
It
that.
wakes you up.
Tell me about that conversation. I want to know about that conversation you and your wife had when you got the diagnosis. What
Jesus.
did you think, and what did she think? Tell me about that.
Okay. First, I had to get it together. Doc,
Mm-hmm.
after she was still in the recovery room, and the doctor brought me in and told me the news, and I had to gather myself. He said, "Well, you're gonna have to tell your wife." I was like, I was stunned. So it took me
Mm-hmm.
it took me probably 30 minutes. I had to pray. I asked God to help me first. My first thing I said to myself is, "God, be with me."
Mm-hmm.
I need help. At this moment, because what are you going to do? You can't change it. It's a fact. It's a fact. And so, I don't think the kids were there. I think it was just me and you, right? Yeah, because you had that scope. Yeah, none of the kids were there. And so I probably waited maybe 20 minutes. The nurse said she was starting to wake up from the anesthesia. And so about maybe 20, 30 minutes. And so um, me and my wife, before she went into the scope to see what was actually going on, we both had some idea at that point that it probably was cancer. Is everybody still there?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Probably was still
Yes,
cancer.
yes, we are.
And okay, and so well, I went into the room, and she was just starting to wake up. So I waited a minute till her eyes she wasn't in a daze or anything. And I
Yeah.
told her, I said, Sheree, I said, sweetheart, it's what we thought that it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's cancer. Uh, the doctor didn't say what it was, but he said it was
Mm-hmm.
cancerous and the nodule. He
Mm-hmm.
didn't say what it was ALK or anything. He just said it was cancer. And so the doctor, your doctor would give you more information on what it was. And so I was in tears. And so,
Mm-hmm.
that's, what are you going to do? I mean, all you can do is trust God. That's what first came to my mind. That's what I told her. I said, Lord, Sharice, we're just going to trust God, because it's going to, like the man said right there, it's in his hands. We're going to trust the
Mm-hmm.
doctors and everything and move forward. We're not going to give up.
All right.
I remember saying that. We're not going to give up.
David, I'm glad to see that we were able to get that little technical problem straightened out. Thank you very much for hanging in there with us, sir. What we were just talking about Douglas was just sharing the experience of when he and his wife got their diagnosis of lung cancer for his wife. Since you also are a caregiver, first, I would like for you to introduce yourself, tell us who you are and where you are. And then I wish if you could share with us what that moment was when you got the diagnosis of lung cancer and how you looked at the future for what you were going to do for your wife. So again, sir, David, please go right ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everybody's doing well.
Good
Uh,
afternoon.
I am originally from Jamaica, as you can probably tell or not tell from the accent. And my wife, God bless her soul, we were dating and she was doing her residency at Howard University. And she got a
Mhm.
stage 4 lung cancer diagnosis in the middle of that. I was doing the back and forth. And essentially, there were a range of emotions that happened, of course, because, we were planning on getting married and doing the whole picket fence, 2.5 kids and all that wonderful stuff. But the the lung cancer put a wee bit of a wrinkle in all of that. And
Mm.
essentially, what had happened was her care team, if you will, for lack of a better word, at the university, and I will always say big up to Dr. Thomas, her pulmonologist, who listened to her, because that is something I've observed since I've been here. That a lot of times when individuals are having certain pains and problems and maladies, especially if they're not white, and even the white people have the same challenges, they're not listened to. But fast forward, her pulmonologist helped her to quickly get tested, check what was happening with her. The diagnosis came back, went to John Hopkins, got a biopsy done to see what stage the cancer was at. And when the news came back that it was stage 4, it was heavy because my wife is literally the picture of health. She runs 5Ks, ballet, track, you name it, she's done it. Very active. And there were no signs. The only sign was just uh, slight shortness of breath. And
Mhm.
when she went in for that diagnosis back in Jamaica, by the way, because this we got the early warning signs in Jamaica, but they don't have the sample size, if you will, on the various types of cancer mutations that the states would have. And as such, they just wrote it up to, oh, it's just pneumonia, scarring of the lung tissue. And that was it. Fast forward to coming over to here in the States, going through a residency, and they did a little bit more in depth, plus they have a larger sample size to diagnose what it was. Now, coming back to the emotional part of it, as a Jamaican male, and I don't like to use geofencing because I believe that we're all human, we're all human,
Yeah.
and all males right around the world all have that conditioning
Yeah.
of being militant, strong, and get it done type attitude.
Right.
But when someone you love gets diagnosed with a potentially terminal
Tough.
disease, all that goes through the window. Like there's a Red Lobster bathroom somewhere in Maryland that has a hole in the wall because
Okay.
right, yeah, don't let the button up fool you, right?
Okay.
I had everybody has a boiling point and they need that release. And so for me, I got that quick release, and afterwards, as per my mechanical mind, if you will, I went to thinking, okay, what can I do? What can I control? What can I contribute? How can I help her without being a bother
That's
at the
right.
same time? And I quickly learned boundaries are important. And I know it's a weird word to use when taking care of someone, but a lot of the times I find that as you go through the caregiving gamut of emotions, you forget to take care of yourself. You forget to give your wife or your loved one the necessary space to also process what they're going through and check in on them afterwards on a regular basis. So that is my
Yeah.
journey and short story. There are lots of other
So,
details, and we can go into when you're ready.
oh, we will get into some of that. Um, Billy, it was interesting what we heard from Douglas and David talking about a team kind of a thing there. Now, you mentioned about the support that you got from your wife. How has she supported you, and how have you let her support you or work with you through your treatment and this journey so far?
Well, first of all, I had to realize that I had to kind of step down a little bit. Instructions, because I felt
Mm-hmm.
like the most important thing was after God had brought me through this and gave me a caregiver was to listen and follow the instruction that was given to me by her. And at times, I wanted to do what I wanted to do, but she was a little bit strong in there. And because I was, kind of emotionally I felt fine. I never had any issues. And if I had not had that early testing, I never would have known that I had that spot on my lung. And it was growing in order for them to find out that it was cancerous, but it was only 1 centimeter in diameter. So I depended on her greatly, emotionally, and I wasn't weak to the degree where I couldn't walk
Mm-hmm.
or do anything, but otherwise, I depended on her.
Robert,
Yes, sir.
now we got a Jamaican man. I was going to say, so Rob, we got a Jamaican man in here and we got an Army guy. You people think the world of yourselves and your opinion. Of course, me being a Howard man, I can't, that's going to muddle things even more. But Robert, I want you to tell me,
Right.
who did you talk to first after your diagnosis and tell us about that conversation? What did
Oh,
you
wow. The
want to
first,
get across and what did you want to hear, if you would?
uh, um, I talked to a good friend of mine, a partner from high school, and
Mm-hmm.
just sharing with him what I felt, and how I couldn't really believe this, and I felt like I did my part for my country, and now I got to deal with this mess, and it wasn't very positive conversation, but I'm thankful that I had him around as an ear to listen, and then eventually, I confided in the rest of my family, but outright, thankfully I had him, and we were able to chop it up, and he was there for me. So, yeah, good friend.
That is good to hear. Um, but tell me something else, though. At some point,
Yes, sir.
you probably have had a conversation with somebody about lung cancer.
Yes.
How is that? Do you initiate that conversation, or is somebody coming to you and say, "Hey, man, I got word that at the VA that you had this. Tell me about it. Tell me, is
Um,
that something you have? And what do you tell people?"
that no, that really doesn't happen. I think a lot of people don't know what my story is per se,
Hmm.
and I kind of like it like that because I guess in essence I'm a private person.
Well, they do know.
But
They know it now, sir. I just want you to know you're putting it out there right now, so
obviously, yeah,
people
now
know now.
everybody
But go
knows. Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, the cat's out the bag, right? Yeah, but yeah, I didn't really, I mean, nobody really comes to me, and and I guess I'm getting, better about thinking about ways I could, share my story, and maybe be an advocate for African American veterans in some way, to where I could,
Man,
hey, we could talk about, taking care of yourself, and being honest with your family, and just sharing your story is important, and that you're still here, throughout all your ups and downs, that you're still here, and that you can anybody can make that challenge. accomplish the mission.
Yes.
But go back to that. Being honest with your family, because the stereotype of men is that we're going to try to keep this stuff inside. We don't want to share and talk. So how are you honest about a health issue with your family or your friends?
Well, just kind of break it down to them. This is what I'm dealing with. So this is why I may be out of the net. I may be, I may have good days and bad days. This is probably the reason why. And this is where, I could use your help. That's another thing. Asking for help was a lot for me. So, sharing that with my family and letting my family know, hey, I need help, I'm going to need help. We need your support, so this is what it is. And, we're going to fight it and do what we got to do as a family.
Douglas, you and David are in a unique community. So I want you to tell me, how do you keep from getting burned out as a caregiver? And what are some of the truths that you have discovered as a caregiver? The good things and the bad, because it clearly goes, you're going to get a little bit of both. So tell us a little bit about that. You got to unmute yourself, sir. Unmute yourself, Douglas.
Yeah.
Thank
The
you.
number one thing is that me and my wife, our faith. That is the number one thing that keeps us going. We believe in our faith. We believe that God has a plan for our life, no matter the circumstance. I know that's tough to say because here we are. We're talking about a death, 4-stage lung cancer. But we also know that we have somebody higher than us. So, our faith, for one, number one. How did that, what was the other part of your question? I kind of lost you. I'm sorry. What was the other part, sir?
What is the truth?
Oh, the truth, yeah.
I think we don't expect to find out, but now all of a sudden we realize this is.
Yeah. The truth, the truth is that it ain't going away. We got to fight through this. Me and my wife, we have a entourage that we say we're going to stay on the ship. In Titanic, the man and the woman stayed on the ship as long as possible, and so we use that when things get tough. Over years, thank God. But the truth is, we want to stay on the ship. We want to fight this disease. We want to do whatever we can. And so the truth is we stay on the ship. We stay together, right? We trust each other. We talk when those good and bad days. I have bad days. My wife has bad days. We went through 2 chains of medicine. That in itself is uncomfortable. It is. You don't know if it's going to work. So you stay together. You talk through it. You talk through the changing of medicine. You talk through when you go and visit your doctor and the scans and everything. We talk through it even before we even get to the hospital. Okay, so those are the truths. Is you got to have communication. You can't hold it in. You can't. It won't disappear. It's not going nowhere. And so you got to work through those things.
Gotcha.
If that means anything.
Doug's brought interesting points there. I mean, this stuff isn't going anywhere. You have to face it. So your position was that Douglas was already married. You were thinking about getting married.
Wow.
To adopt at that. So what is tell us about the good and bad and how has it affected your approach to things? And perhaps even your relationship. And how do you counsel other men who are going through the same process like you? And if you'd unmute yourself, we would love to hear that response from you. Could you hear my question to you, David? David, did you hear the question I had for you?
I'm sorry. Could you repeat that?
Yeah. Okay. I'll repeat it again. So we I don't know if you heard a lot of what Douglas was saying. But the question is, what are some of your truths that you guys went through? Because first off, at your age, second, you weren't married yet, and how do you talk to other people coming through the same situation that you might be going through?
So I look at life like this: in for a penny, in for a pound. And what I meant by that, I had already fallen in love with this woman. She
Uh-huh.
passed the various things that to me matter for having a dynamic, healthy, long-term loving relationship. And so whatever maladies, whatever ups and downs, whatever challenges that would come our way, I was ready and committed to her before the ring. The cancer diagnosis accelerated that process because I was planning to get a ring custom made a year from then in terms of that
Mm-hmm.
point. And then to be quickly married, transported to another country in the space of less than 3 weeks. It's a lot to process emotionally. It's a whirlwind of emotions to go through. And for anyone that is going through that process or in that process, I would say to them communication. And I don't mean superficial communication, because my wife and I practice, well, I practice radical truth, radical transparency. And what that means is that there is no secrets, apart from the ones that everyone definitely has to have. But there
Mm-hmm.
are no secrets when it comes down to the overall health of our relationship, of our mental health, our physical health, our emotional health. We check in, we talk, we vent, we cuss, not each other. But you have a bad day. That heifer, oh, Jennifer in accounting is getting on my goddamn last nerve. That type of stuff. Right? Everyone has
Yeah.
that. Everyone goes through that. And so those are the things I would say to them. Hang on to that, and never be afraid to ask for help, because based on what Robert was saying in terms of asking for help, I know, especially as I'm not sure if you're active or former military, retired. Thank you for your service, sir. You went through a lot, and that training, that military training, does something to your mindset in terms of how you approach life. And for you to ask for help, I think people need to take a page out of your book and go even further and quickly identify who you're going to be asking for what. And what I mean by that, I have a term that I borrowed from someone, FDR. And everyone has that in their friend groups in terms of F is for feelers, your emotional support people, touchy-feely, type people. D is for doers. Those are the people that you can ask to mow your lawn when you're at a 5 and you can't get out of bed. They'll quickly get up and do that for you. And R is for respite. Those are the people that they're so caught up in their own world and they drag you in. It's a beautiful, welcome distraction. And so when you identify FDR, who you have, you know who to ask what questions. You're not going to ask a feeler to do something for you, because they're going to get all overwhelmed. Oh my God. And, it's not helpful. And so you too have to do a bit of analysis in terms of who you're going to ask for help, because not everyone is built to help you. And that's what I would say to them in terms of how they approach it.
That's very good. However, sir, I'll tell you, as says the Roberts, your secrets are out of the bag now, so you're in trouble, bro. I'd be very careful. You thought you had secrets that you didn't talk to your wife, but I think she's going to ask you about some of that later on. So it's interesting to hear.
Well, yeah, I'm not married, so I'm good though.
So you're good. Well, then let's pick up on David's thing. Tell us about your
Right.
FDR then. I mean, do you have? I mean,
Oh yeah.
do you have some guys that you just kick back and we always say that the old joke is that you can sit down, not see a guy you went to high school with you can't see this guy for 10 years, and in the space of how you doing, I'm fine, you all have caught up. So
Right.
what does that community of lung cancer survivors look like for you? Do you sit down and talk to other people, other men about this like that?
No, I don't. I just have my circle. I just have my small circle of friends. One thing I do notice, the older I get, the smaller my circle gets, because some people are just just in your life, or just there to help you get through something, or for you to help them. So my circle's small, and those are people. I have my people who my feelers are. I have my people, that are doers, that will help me. I got, one or two of those, but the doers are just really kind of, you got to be careful what you say to them, because if you say a certain thing, it's going to get done, regardless of how you may like it, it's going to get done. And then, you have your rest. Yeah, people who you can talk to and just listen to their problems. And it is a welcome break from what you're dealing with. So, I have all those. Thankfully I do, but it's small. It's a very small circle, and I'm thankful for that, man. I've learned that I don't need a big
Cool, that's
circle
good.
of friends.
That's cool. Say, Billy. So you went through a screening process, and all of a sudden somebody tells you after the screen that there's something we got to worry about. How did you make the decision to say, okay, go ahead and proceed? What were the things that were going on in your mind as you were saying, okay, we're going to make an incision in you, we're going to cut out part of your lung? Process. Tell us how you process that.
Well, in the beginning, it was not a fact that they was going to remove that part. They was just going in and removing that spot. But they were unable to do that. So to get to that spot, they had to remove a wedge. And I did not realize this until after I had came to in recovery, and the surgeon explained to me what they had done, and that I was blessed because the cancer was in the part of the wedge that they removed, which, gave me, at ease. And my face wasn't tore up any longer, because she knew that was help on the way.
Right.
Yeah.
And when he said, I'm going to send you to radiation and see what they say, but you may not have to take it because it's already been removed from your body. And that's what happened. So they sent me to chemo. And that right there became real tedious. I had my wife, a niece who she worked at the Medical College of Georgia. She used to come over almost every day when I was there just to be with me and keep me company. And my sister, and when my family came around me, it gave me more hope. And it let me know that I was important. Even though no matter what I thought prior to that, it showed me. And not to mention the friends who would say, man, I'm praying for you. I'm praying for you. A lot of folks did not realize that the cancer was no longer in my body. They thought I was still going through the cancer. I was just going through the recovery part of the cancer, which was the chemo. And once they told me that my session was over and I went to ring the bell, I disappeared and everybody was like, well, where Billy at? I went and rung the other bell because I was excited. So other people became excited,
Right.
And
Yes, sir.
it really changed my life and my family's life because we realized nobody is exempt.
Tell us one thing though. What went through your mind while you were getting the chemotherapy? Did you ever want to say, forget it, I'm not going to do this? Or did you just persevere? And what was it that got you to persevere through the chemotherapy?
I just persevered because I still believe that there were some more things that God needed for me to do in my life. I had a family. and children that I wanted to see raised up.
Mm-hmm.
And I just believed that there was other things for me to do in life. And so I prayed a lot. I prayed more than probably I ever had,
Okay.
even though I am a veteran also. But
Thank you for your service.
that's different.
Hmm.
Yes, Army. So
Cool.
that was different than being in the service. This was
Yeah.
real. This
Yeah.
was right here, up close and personal. You know, and
Sure.
for a long time I thought, man, how did this happen to me? I never felt any symptoms. I was a smoker from a teenager on. I went through the military. I worked at factories and companies and plants. Never had any idea that something was going on inside my body. It's something as small as 1 centimeter in diameter could have taken my life. That made
Well,
me
Billy,
think a lot different.
you are clearly the poster child as far as why we get screening. So we're going to come back to that point in a minute. But I want to ask the two guys who are caregivers, and we'll start with you, David. How do you sit there? Because both of your wives had stage 4 disease and were quite symptomatic at the time of treatment. So how do you sit there during the treatment? What's going on through your mind, and what is it that you know? Are you there to support? Are you there to break down the roadblocks? How do you see your role in this whole process? David, take us through it and unmute yourself too.
Thank you.
We don't want to miss
Uh,
any words you got to say.
so
I'm not
that's
certain about that one.
someone can probably hear.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So my thing is, I try to take a scientific and holistic approach or integrative medicine approach to how I work with maladies or diagnoses, if you will. And what I mean by that is that you first ensure that you have the best medical care team, people you trust, people who respect your opinion, people who will be transparent with you and honest with you. And they also, if it helps, this helps a lot, they have a good bedside manner, because there were some bumps in the road where I think we had a surgeon that he was a complete dick, uh, as surgeons are, it seems, as I'm learning. Don't worry, Dr. Tuxson, you're an exception. You're a nice one. Uh, uh, let's, yeah. And what I do is that I once we find that team, I then trust them. I ask questions. I do my own research, and at the same time, I also look into what holistic remedies there are out there in terms of natural ways to help the body to heal and to fight these things. Because while Western medicine and big pharma is of a great help in terms of what they have produced in terms of medications, where you don't have to go, depending on if you get screened early enough to find out what type of mutation in terms of your cancer is, you can instead
Mhm.
take a pill, targeted therapy. And that to me is like, yes, finally, we're living in the actual 21st century where you don't have to go through chemo, chemo is barbaric to the human body. But it's necessary, unfortunately. But the technology has evolved. And so in taking that approach, it lessens the emotional strain and worry, because you kind of have a very clear line of sight what to expect, what can potentially happen, and what you can do in terms of helping your partner to overcome these various obstacles. Because at the end of the day, some obstacles, and this is the harder part, some obstacles as a caregiver you cannot help that person with. They have to cross that bridge alone. And all you can do is watch, support, be a great cheerleader, and wait for them at the end of the bridge.
But touch on something for me, because you were very intentional in talking about selecting a care team and some criteria that you were using to exclude people and yet allow others to remain in. We oftentimes hear the point, and I want to hear what Douglas says too, because this is your wife we're talking about. I don't trust the medicine. The medicine, the entity, the healthcare delivery system. I don't think that they are doing the right thing by us. And we hear a lot of times people say, I know my body better than you do. In some cases, that is. But how do you get past that of saying, hey, maybe on this one, somebody else does know more than I do? And how do you trust them to take care of your most, and I don't mean commodity in terms of ownership, but commodity in terms of the thing most dear to you? How do you work through that?
So that's not hard for me personally. I cannot speak for everyone else, but I have learned and acquired the necessary set of skills to be very observant, very analytical, and responsive in terms of what I'm getting back from the person, and to take the emotion out of it and have a direct conversation with this person that I'm entrusting my loved one's life with, to say, these are the questions that I have for you. And I try not to be not threatening because it is a part of our makeup, I find, as men, when someone threatens or mistreats or slights our loved ones, our family, our relatives, or people close to us, we want to instinctively protect them. And sometimes that instinct can override the communication process, where you're forgetting the fact that this person is trained, this person is board certified, this person has more knowledge than you, and you have to take a more humble approach in terms of how you talk with them, and also actively listen to what they're saying. And if you do not understand anything that they're saying, never, ever let pride get in the way of asking the stupid questions. There are no stupid questions when it comes on to the person that you love.
No stupid questions.
Douglas. Now, Douglas, some interesting points there, but you added another piece to it when you were talking about your wife, and that is, that sometimes in the African American community, we may or may not be getting the same level of treatment that others in our community may be getting. Did that color your responses as you were trying to look at people who are going to take care of your wife? Or did you, I know your faith was very important to you, and I think David just listed quite a few criteria and things that he's going through, and we heard a little bit about what Billy, so tell me, what is that? You're there. How do you handle all those different voices and emotions that you're getting to be supportive of your wife?
Okay. The biggest thing that I wanted my wife heard. As I sat there, I listened to my wife, the question she was asking. I wanted to make sure that the doctors understood what my wife was saying to them and what she was feeling. And if they wasn't listening, I took it on myself to say, hey, this is what my wife is trying to explain to you, what's going on and what she needs. Me and my wife, we were in sync on if we were getting the best care. And if we wasn't, we knew it instantly. That the care that we were receiving from the hospital we were at, it just was not working. Like you say, we went from a smaller hospital to a university. We knew instantly.
Reducing the medicine.
We knew instantly that we had to change. And so being a caregiver, listening to your wife, listening to her is so very, very important. Listening to her and what she needs from you, and reducing the medicine.
Give an example.
And so that was very important.
Thank you. Robert, let's kind of go back to some of you as the patient's perspective, were you ever concerned about the care that you were getting, or were you always confident of what was happening? And were you comfortable in saying, "Hey, I want to have an opinion in how we're going to drive this bus"? Yes, you are driving the bus, but I want some opinion in which road we're going to go down. Were you involved, and how did you take some action with that?
Yeah, I was definitely involved in that. I learned early on that you have to advocate for yourself and to ensure that your doctors are listening to you. My
Mm-hmm.
doctor, my team, I thought they were pretty good. Obviously, I don't know from anything, but just in talking to them and their bedside manner and the fact that you they really cared. At least I felt that way. That it made it a lot easier for me. But I always want to make sure that I could advocate for myself and speak up for myself. And and also what I would do is after every appointment, I would try to record the conversation in a sense so I could go back over it and just because in the office you may not pick up on everything that's said. So I'll go back over it and transcribe it and try to look at it and see what I could have said better, or if I didn't think my point was going across like I should have, I would do that. So, um, just just being, you got to trust your team. You have to trust your team somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
But if I was able to get a second opinion, I definitely would have. But at the time, I really couldn't. Um, but because the VA was
Well,
my only option for
yeah.
medical care at the time.
Well, let's first off say that you are here and doing well. So clearly, the team did a good job. So I'm going to give
Obviously,
kudos
yes.
to the team. Now, even since you felt that, and I applaud your recording the conversation for later looking at. Why didn't you just take somebody else with you also to have another set of ears?
Sometimes it just, I guess I felt like I didn't really want to bother anybody. People work through the day. The appointments are when they are. I'm like, I just felt like I did it by myself. But sometimes I would also like call someone and just let them listen to the conversation also while the doctor's in the room with me.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll go back over later, after the appointment to pick out the points we thought were important.
Mm-hmm.
Also cover things that we think we could do better, that I could do better when I'm talking to my doctor. So yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't also always have a person there with me, but I had people listening in that, I trusted and that they would, be honest with their opinion.
Billy, I imagine that you were cutting up when you were there getting your chemotherapy because you were kind of a lively guy. But did you take people with
Yeah.
you to your doctor's appointments and things to have another set of ears?
My wife went to every appointment.
Mm-hmm.
She made it clear to me, I'm going to all of your appointments with you.
Uh,
She said, because,
That's a blessing.
sometimes with what's going on, your mind kind of drift because you kind of drift away from what's actually happening and you thinking what might, could have, should have, and would have happened. But to have somebody there, and she's been in the medical field. She's been dental hygienist for over 40 some years, and I have a sister-in-law that's a nurse, and my niece that used to come sit with me. She works at the Medical College of Georgia. So, the first thing she would do is talk to my sister-in-law,
mm-hmm.
who could give her a good point of view. Tell Billy Mack to do this. Tell Billy Mack this is what he need to expect. Tell Billy Mack, don't be hard-headed. Do what the doctors tell you to do in the way they tell you to do it. It is so important. Those
Okay.
are the things that stuck in my mind. Now, I did have some problem with chemo because I'd get so comfortable, I'd cross my leg and the alarm would go off, or I'd put my hand on my head, and the alarm would go off. My niece, Billy, you got to just lay there and take this like a man, is what she said. And you know what? When I
Gotcha.
came through that, I was so glad to have them in my corner.
Now, I want to come back to something though with you. You were a cigarette smoker, right? Billy? Billy, am I wrong? Were you not? You were a cigarette smoker, weren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I'm not chastising you for this. As you walk around and you see young people smoking, do you approach them and say anything to them?
No, because young folks are in a whole different world. They get real offensive about that. So I just say I did that once upon a time, and it could have caught up with me because the doctor said we can't tell you what actually caused this cancer because we don't know. But we know that cigarette smoke could have possibly caused it. But young people of the day, very few of them smoke cigarettes. They smoke all that other stuff because society have decorated it, put a bow on it for them. And they think that's the happening thing. And now some who I said, man, I remember when it was the happening things when I was a teenager to smoke. I said, but it catches up with you down the road.
Okay. So, all right, Robert, were you a cigarette smoker in the military? Or did you get yours
Yes, sir.
from the, you were? So
Yeah,
again,
I would.
what are you telling young people about their health and things they may or may not want to do, and in particular about smoking? Do you volunteer and say, hey, do you really want to do this?
No, I don't. Uh, but at the time in the military, I was a social smoker. I was just trying to, get an extra break in with the rest of the guys in my unit.
City.
A group of us would just go outside and smoke and take a little extra break, whatever. So, and that went throughout my military career. But when I got out, I didn't have that group of guys, and there was no more social smoking. But as far as telling the young folks, I'll tell my family members. I'll
Okay.
definitely. I told my son. I'll tell my daughter. Yeah, definitely. It's not something that you want to do. I mean, like the effects can last you for so long. It can even affect your family members in the future. So whatever. If you want to have kids, it can affect that too. So you just want to try to think ahead. I think a lot of times young people feel like they're invincible, and they don't really think
Douglas, what
to
about
the
you?
future like they should. Huh?
Douglas, you've been a coach, you've got kids. What are you telling them about what things that they can do now to protect their health, and especially when it comes to cigarette smoking? Unmute yourself, sir. Unmute yourself. You're muted,
Uh,
Douglas. We want to hear.
yeah.
We want to hear everything. You muted yourself back again. You're so fast at it. You hit the button. Hit the
Dang it.
button again.
Okay,
There
there
you
we
go,
go.
sir.
Okay, I'm sorry. I definitely tell young folks don't smoke. The smoking is just bad. But even though my wife was never a smoker, my family smoked, and I smoked maybe 5, 6 years of my life. And
Hmm.
smoking is horrible. It catches up with you. I just didn't have. I didn't have. I did it. I started off smoking because, like Robert said, social. I was around my other friends. I did it. My wife never did, and so. But yeah, I would. I'm an advocate for telling young people don't smoke. Yes, if you
All right. Thank you,
you
Douglas.
know, and tell them it catches up with you. Yep.
David, what do you try to talk to young people about their health and things they can do to minimize obtaining diseases like lung cancer? Or do you?
So as Billy and Robert said, in terms of talking to young people, it's a double-edged sword because we were young
Yes.
once and we didn't listen to our elders, so they're not going to listen to us. But just facts. But if you take a psychological approach to it, like you are approachable by simply observing them because pattern of behavior is real. A lot of these
Yeah.
kids nowadays, they're doing the non-alcoholic beverages and trying to slightly live healthier. Social drinking isn't laced with alcohol anymore. That's your in to say, hey, in the same way that you're trying to take better care of yourself and your health, you should also probably lay off the smoking a bit, because there are terrible cancer mutations out there that
Okay.
actually hit you and keep you down, and you won't see it coming until it's too late. And so my thing is to simply say to them that in the same way that you go to the gym, you try to eat healthy, you try to maintain your looks, you got to also maintain what's happening inside your lungs. And in order to do that, you unfortunately may have to give up, your tobacco or your weed smoking. And at least with tobacco, there are compromises in terms of this, because once again, we have to take into consideration that it does have addictive properties, and it's not the easiest of things to wean off of. And so you have to have milestones for them to follow and say, hey, instead of smoking weed, have a gummy instead, once a week.
Sure. Ruin your teeth.
Yeah.
Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Ruin your teeth instead of your lungs. All right.
Right.
Gentlemen,
Exactly.
I want. We're going to wrap this up, gentlemen, because I've enjoyed this conversation, but I really, we do have to come to a little time.
You ain't say nothing.
I want 1 minute thing that you want everybody, the big take-home point that you want people to know
And don't
from
say
your
just
experience. I'm going to start with Robert, then go to Billy, David, and then going to end up with Douglas. I want the 1 minute, Billy. I want the 1 minute approach to this. Start off with Robert. Go ahead, sir. A take-home point.
Okay, 1 minute. My approach is to be an example within my family, the people in my community, and just lead from that way. I don't want to be overbearing. I don't want to be pushy, but I do have a wealth of information. I think about some of this stuff, and what I went through, and it could be valuable. So, I just, I'm thankful that I'm still here after all this time, dealing with other issues and still here, kind of dealing with cancer kind of helped me, be able to handle other issues I've had down the road. So, just be an example. I think it's important.
Thank you very much. Billy, what is your one big take-home point you want us to have?
Early testing. That is so important. And I don't think it matters how old you are, but the sooner you have it done, the better off you will be. Discover what's going on inside your body and be willing to share that with other people, just in case somebody might need to be lifted up, to know that they're not the only one. This is happening to a lot of people.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. David, your take-home point.
My take-home point to everyone is don't let fear or pride get in the way of maintaining your body's health and internal manners that you have. Always make sure you do regular checkups. In the same way you service your cars, change your air filters in your house. For African American communities, you don't change that battery thing that happens in terms of the fire alarm. That's fine. You gotta pass on that. But everything else, make sure you keep internally, and don't let fear and pride get in the way of that.
Thank you. And we'll make sure you get our same changed. All right, Douglas, please. Your take-home point, sir.
Get a second opinion. Don't if you feel anything within yourself as a caregiver, talk to your spouse and say, hey, I think we need to go another direction. Be honest with your feelings. Be honest with the doctors. Be honest with your family. And please, please, please know that, hey, cancer is not a death sentence. My wife has lived 12 years, praise the Lord. And it's because of medicine. It's because of her faith. It's because of her care team. And we put all of them together. All of them, we want to make sure all of them are involved. So, yes, if all those things are not happening, please get a second opinion. Please get a team that works for you and works for your family.
Wow. Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for taking time out of your busy days to participate. For those of you who are, I wish you a happy Father's Day coming up. And for the
Yes,
rest
that's
of us
right.
who are listening to the good words of advice that we heard today, I hope that you found the discussion informative, affirming, and encouraging. As treatments have improved, the survival rates for those with lung cancer have significantly improved. But the two
Hmm.
best ways to decrease our chances of dying from lung cancer are number one, don't start smoking. And if you are a
All right.
smoker, please continue to make the
Stop.
effort to quit. We know it's difficult, as you heard the gentleman talk about. It is addictive, but if you keep trying, keep trying. The benefits are so great if you can quit smoking. The second thing is, as Billy said, if you are a smoker, please, please, please get screened for lung cancer. Just to remind you, this discussion will be available to the Voices That Heal Facebook group, on the Heal Collaborative Facebook page, and on the Heal Collaborative YouTube page. Thank you all very much for being with us today, and I look forward to your being with us on the next episode of Voices That Heal. Gentlemen, everyone else, thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Have a good day as well.